I am back with another tutorial. This video is going to be a detailed natural brow tutorial. I do have a color brow tutorial already up, so if you guys want to see that, just I will link it in the description bar below so you guys can check it out. But all I'm doing is prepping the skin, and I also prep the skin that's around the eyebrow area. So I'm just showing that I'm going in and cleansing it, applying a moisturizer, as well as the primer that I'm using on my client. So then I'm going to go in with the NYX brow gel and make sure that all of those hairs are going in the same direction. Want them all to be uniform. That way it gives it a more natural brow look. Once I'm done brushing out the brows, I'm going to take the tip of that brow gel brush and just line the top. This is gonna make sure that the brows aren't looking like unruly or anything and really give it its shape. So after that, I'm going to press the brow hairs into the skin, making sure that in the front I'm pressing it going upwards, and then the rest of the hairs I'm just like pressing in the direction that the hairs are going in. By pressing it in, that's going to make sure that the hairs are actually adhering to the skin and aren't going to move around as we continue on doing the brows. You'll see this is very helpful whenever you have clients with very bushy brows or curly hair around their brows. This will be very helpful to make sure that their brows don't look too messy. Sometimes as you begin to press the brow hairs down, you'll see them start to overlap, and I personally do not like how this looks. I want all of the hairs to be laying completely flat onto the skin. So I'm going to go back through with the brush and make sure that all of those hairs are combed through. And then I'm just going to push upwards in the front and then go in the direction that the hairs fall. And as you can see, there's no overlapping once you do it that way. So I'm going to apply a translucent loose setting powder onto the brows, and as you can see, it instantly mattifies the brow area, so the other side looks glossy, of course, because it still has that brow gel on it. And by applying the powder, it's going to make sure that when we go in with our brow pencil, that the product is actually able to stick. Otherwise it would just look like a greasy mess. So now that our brows are prepped and ready for us to fill them in, it is time to take our pencil and start outlining the bottom portion of the brow. We're going to start at the front and then just outline the natural shape that the brow hair grows in. And then at the top, I'm going to start right behind where those initial brow hairs start. I don't want to start completely in the front because that's going to give it a boxy look, and that is not what we're going for. We're going for a natural, natural effortless filled in brow, So I'm just doing hair-like strokes. I'm applying medium pressure. I don't want to apply too hard because then the brows are going to look very dark, and that's not what we want. So if you look at where my hand is placed on the pencil, you'll see it's about halfway through, so I have control over where it lays, but I'm not able to apply as much pressure because of where I'm holding it at. So that's a little tip if you guys are a little heavy-handed, to ensure that you're not applying too much pressure. So again, I'm just outlining the brows, and then I'm going to go on the inside and fill it in wherever I feel like it needs to be filled in. Be sure that you guys aren't overfilling in the brows. I mean, if you want it to be more dramatic, I suppose you can do that, but for a natural look, you want to make sure that you aren't applying too much product. You want it to still look like hair-like strokes. So now we're going to start cleaning up the brows with our concealer, and I'm just going to start at the arch. By starting at the arch, I'm able to really gear at how high I want my brows to go. Sometimes when you start at the front of the brows, it's very easy to go too high, and then you look like you're super surprised, and that's not the look we're going for. We want a natural, effortless brow, not somebody who just got scared, okay? So that's a little tip if you guys get a little carried away, or just as you're doing makeup, sometimes it's easy to just mess up a little bit. So that's a foolproof way of staying on task and not overdoing it. So as I'm doing the brows, I'm making sure to use the tip of my flat concealer brush to really sharpen up those edges. So again, I'm applying a thin layer of the product just to make sure that I don't have too much on my brush. And then I'm going to take that tip and really carve out the shape of the arch, and then go back again and smooth out that concealer so there aren't any lines or anything, because those will show up and be hard to blend out. So once I get to the front of the brow, I'm going to take a concealer shade that's a little bit closer to her skin color and just connect that to the lighter concealer shade that we used previously. This part is more simple because we already did it halfway through the brow, so you're really just connecting them. And then I'm going to also make sure that I'm going out a little bit before where the brow starts, so that when I do the other side, I'll be able to connect them and then make sure that they're even. So that's a little tip I like to use to make sure that my brows are at least level with each other. One isn't too much higher than the other one. So when I do the other brow, I go on a straight line, and then as you can see, there's a little curve in between because obviously the skin isn't flat. So I'll take the tip of my brush and go back in to make sure that that is straight and there are no gaps between the concealer and the brows. So after that, I'm just going to apply a little bit more concealer onto the lid area and then blend it out with a fluffy brush. Make sure that the brush you're using is dense so that it really blends it out and maintains a thick layer. Fluffy brushes do not work to blend out the concealer for this specific thing. Also make sure that whenever you're blending out between the brows, that you're making sure to diffuse that very well. You do not want to have any harsh lines between the brows because that's like a dead giveaway, and it honestly just looks very tacky. You can take a couple extra seconds just to make sure that's blended, and it's going to save you a lot of time whenever you go back in to do your nose contour, your foundation. Just take your time with the little steps like this. It makes the biggest difference whenever you're doing your makeup. So if you don't take anything from this, take that. So I applied her foundation onto the skin, and that's what I'm using to outline the top of the brows. So I do the same thing I did with underneath, making sure that I remove some of that extra product off of my brush. And then I'm just going to outline the top, making sure I drag it. And then I make sure that I'm starting at the level that I want to. That's why you see me picking up my brush so many times, to make sure that I have that angle right before I go ahead and drag my brush along the brow. I like to drag it just to make sure that it has that even coat on it and there's no lines or anything like that show up once I go out to blend it. There's really no particular way that I carve out the top of the brows as far as starting from the front and then going to the back or anything. I'm really just choosing whatever's going to give me that best angle to make sure that I'm getting the shape that I want. So I might, as you can see, I'm moving the brush from forward to backwards. My arm's kind of in the way, but you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. And then if you overdo it on the concealer, you can just take your brush or brow pencil and go back over that area. Just make sure you're wiping off any excess concealer because it is picking up concealer on the pencil. So this is the finished look. If you guys want to see the tutorial for this look, be sure to leave it down in the description bar or in the comments below, and I'll be sure to drop it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.